and author of Chinese Urban Revolution, Austin Williams. Mr. Williams, thank you very much for joining me. This is very serious, isn't it? The appearance of a government failure to assist the Crown Prosecution Service.
Well, I do think that there's a little bit over hype in some of this conversation, because obviously Starmer has got a lot to answer for, whether it's the whole issue of trampling the economy or trampling over civil liberties in general. And this story itself seems to have bypassed the essence of the story, which is of two individuals who seem to have been passing over information to a foreign state. And then the conversation then moved on to being one of talking about whether the Official Secrets Act itself mentioned enemy state, which it does, and China was not designated to be an enemy state. And therefore, we seem to be caught up in very much a technical, legalistic kind of definitional world, which obviously Starmer is very used to. This is his forte, playing with technical legal matters. But in some respects, it also seems as if this is now something to do with backroom public prosecution mandarins seem to be at the core of this conversation, almost marginalizing the Tory party, who actually were in government when these two were actually carrying out their espionage, and Starmer, who is now being seen to be slapped down for not actually prosecuting them. So something is going on behind the scenes, which is obviously doubly problematic in as much as they're not revealing much of the information. So we're being kept a little bit in the dark as to the reality of the conversation.
Yes, and it is important that the two cabinet secretaries and Sedwill, who of course was the security advisor himself as well, have come out and said that actually it was clear that China was designated as a threat under the Conservatives. There's the judgment in the Bulgarian case that seemed to lower the bar for definition of an enemy down to a country viewed as a security threat. And therefore this excuse that in 2023, when the crimes took place, China wasn't deemed in the 1911 Act's terms an enemy seems to me to be pretty spurious.
Well, it's game playing, isn't it? I mean, I think that some lawyer must be rubbing his hands with glee, having found that clause hidden away in the document. I mean, I suppose the other irony, which you may be aware of, I'm sure, is that the Official Secrets Act itself from 1911 was actually superseded in December 2023 with the National Security Act, and the crimes themselves, in very commas, were committed during 2023 prior to that kind of handover. So there's a kind of a strange something is happening which is not political, which is behind closed doors. But I do think that obviously the West, Britain, does deals, does trade, consorts with all kinds of regimes, whether it's Qatar, whether it's recognizing Palestine and Hamas, which you wouldn't have thought would be necessarily a friendly state, all the way through to the European Union. I mean, we've been dealing with them for donkey's years. So I think that there's ways and ways and ways that we can actually recognize that our interests are served by doing deals with countries with which we might not invite them for dinner parties. But at the same time, I think there's important kind of geopolitical issues which maybe take preference over that. So I don't necessarily designate China as an enemy state myself. But I mean, who am I? But I think that ideologically, China poses as much a threat to the West and Western democratic ways of life as Islamism does. However, whereas Islamism wants to destroy the Western way of life, so China is just waiting for it to implode. So I think it's much more of a conversation about what is the sanctity of democracy, where is the West's sense of purpose and confidence that is being kind of undermined here by this entire conversation.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Williams, for joining me. And it's an extremely interesting conundrum.